Good morning, traders. It is 8:02 a.m. here in Chicago on Thursday, the 18th of January, 2024. This is episode number 2606. I want to remind you that derivatives trading carries substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Let's take a look at what we have today. What gift can we unwrap for today from the markets? The pre-market summary sheet here from Convergent Trading, which reminder, today we have our preparation public event at 1 Eastern on YouTube. I'll show you the information on that, but it's also available to you and you can get on there and set a reminder already by clicking on the link in the live chat. It's pinned in the live chat. Go to ct.pro/preparation. So, what's the market doing this morning? We have mild risk on. Remember, yesterday we had risk off sentiment. We had sold off into the lower uh, distribution from last year, and we were battling in that zone for a little bit. Following that auction, we finished pretty strong yesterday in the U.S. indices, and we're being carried forward. As far as key earnings, we got Taiwan Semiconductor. Taiwan Semi came out with earnings beating $1.44 versus $1.37 on 19.62 billion in revenue. We got Truist this morning, which is a bank, Truist Financial. It missed by about 9%. We got M&T Bank. It missed by 19%, and Fastenal beating by 2% on their top line. Um, After the close, we get PPG Industrial and JB Hunt Transports. That's a logistics company. Discover Financial yesterday took a large loss. They missed by, I don't recall the number, but something like 19% or something. Overnight, there was a conflict between Iran. Iran had struck some targets in Pakistan, killing Iranian insurgents, and then Pakistan did the same. They struck in Iran, killing Pakistani insurgents. Um, so it's just that whole area is getting murky. What you notice though is crude, not much lifting going on there still hanging out in the $72 handle. TSMC earnings fell 19% on weakening income. Guidance is strong, lifting techs and NQ. Overall, really few catalysts. Currently, Apple and Microsoft were upgraded. Fed's Bostich wants more evidence of a trajectory to 2% inflation. He's basically saying that the worst case scenario is that we don't get there and we start adjusting rates and we miss the opportunity. Um, U.S. jobless claims this morning came in at 187,000 versus 207,000. That's really, really hot. The labor market's still extremely tight in the U.S. U.S. Philly Fed misses. What do we have left at 10:15? We have President Lagarde. We have the crude oil numbers coming out today because Monday was a holiday. They're shifted to today at 11 o'clock. We have Fed's Bostich at 11:30 and at 12:05. And then this evening, the all-important inflation number out of Japan at 6:30. Currently, the S&P is in a multi-distribution price discovery um, auction type. It's promising some pretty good movement here today. 248,000 contracts have traded. Remember, 260,000, as you can see the box below there in the overnight stats box, which are updated every week. 260 is considered normal, so we are pretty normal volume here for the last 252 overnight sessions. The inventory 61% long, and the range is 34 points. 34 points point of control. It's 47.74. That's what we've got for the S&P. Here's what we talked about yesterday. Just a quick review. We talked about how the 65.66 was highlighted. It's a key area. Oops, not 65.65, 65.66. And we talked about 55.56 being the downside target on the open. So if you recall, the idea was we open, we fight this LIS, we move down into 55.56, and then from there we might bounce up or we may drop right into that 47.20.19 area right down here. Okay, so that was the overall plan for yesterday. Here's what we had. This is yesterday's action. Yesterday, we opened right on top of the 66 right here. We fell below, consolidated. We had a bit of a battle on the way up, consolidated again, missed the low by a tick, and then went to the other side and then consolidated on top and below and on top and below, and then finally pushed through the key area up here being 72 and then 76. It pushed through the 72 here, right there. We had our gap to settle trade fill right here. I did not see an opportunity to get long for the gap to settle trade, and then it put in a double top and started to sell off, retest VWAP from below, and then now we're seeing, with the VWAP holding as opposed to being stepped on, we see that the pullback is weak. Pretty decent rotation down, then a weak pullback, and then we have a continuation, a relatively weak pullback, and then we push through to the 56. Remember, the target yesterday was 55.56. If we can't get above and hold the 65.66 and managed to do that, went to 47 or so, I believe, is the low, and then from there it just drifted up. And what it did is it left behind an excess low. We ended up having yet another neutral day, breaking the IB high and the IB low. We've had 3 neutral days in a row. The market's at an inflection point. And then from there, hang on one second while I clear my throat. And then from there, we reopen and sit sideways through the Asian session. And then Europe comes in right in here. And then we start to hopscotch and skip over the full session VWAP, taking in earnings and so on, and then now we're just resting up here. The point of control is not shifted up. The expectation was the point of control would shift to this 47.91 area. It hasn't done that. We did push to 47.97, so we're getting awful close to the 4800 and have come off. To me, this is a bit of a messy situation here. What's good about it is that we have pretty clear and active price discovery, and we have pretty good range. But overall, pretty bullish tilt, and we could see the bullish tilt forming from yesterday. Actually, this chart shows it better right here. You could see that, we opened, we chopped around into the IB here, pushed the IB, created this double TPO high in D and E period. That's the fourth and fifth brackets quite early in the session. And then we went all the way down, and what we did is we left an excess low at 52 and down. We left an excess low, came right back into balance, consolidated here, and finished near highs. We left a gap zone open, and we left a weak high, 52. The NASDAQ didn't play that game. The NASDAQ's like, you guys are wimps. We're going to go for ours. And the NASDAQ did the same thing. It formed a double TPO high right there. And then an M period, which is the last period of the day, it just ran right through the gap zone, which was open here until the last couple minutes, and it pushed right up into value low of the Tuesday session. So the NASDAQ already breached and was holding higher. The NASDAQ showing relative strength versus the ES. But the ES kind of made it clear, at least to me, that the auction was stunted at the high. This is a classic weak high. You could see volume just steps off, and you could see a double TPO high. In the price action, you'll see a double top. Looks something like this. These are all considered weak highs, and they're expected to be breached. The old stat, again, past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results, but the old stats show that there's an 82% historical probability that a double TPO high is broken by the end of the session, which didn't happen yesterday. And then that stat goes to 86% in the following session. So from a quantitative perspective, we expected to see this 47, 76, 75 or 47, 75, 75 get breached. And it did, because currently we're trading way up here. We're trading in Tuesday's range. We've broken through. So what does that look like? What's the overall picture? What are we trying to? What have we done? What have we tried? What are we trying to do? And how good of a job? What we've done is we pushed through and tested the 65, 66 area that we talked about yesterday. Right in here, we've gone from the upper distribution to the lower distribution. We moved to, as I showed you yesterday, the point of control of the lower distribution, 55. We've moved to that. We poked through, we tested, we probed that lower distribution, we left an excess low, and then we moved back up above the 65, 66 and are coming right back towards the upper distribution. The upper distribution point of control, depending on what you use, is either 15 or 13, right? These are the two key areas, and given today's action, the expectation is any rotation down is expected to be weak, and then we're likely to consolidate to push through the 4800 and end up at the next station. At 4815, 4813. That's what's expected. So what we did is we traded the heck out of this, right? We've just checked and checked and checked. We had excesses up here, and then we finally fell off. And what we did is we gave a chance to sellers to take control. Sellers had a chance to take control here because buyers were just pulling back, and the sellers couldn't hold it down. This is quite bullish for the auction currently. So I'm going to be more cautious on the short side unless we fall back out of this range, Tuesday's range, and back into yesterday's range, at which point I'd be targeting that 65, 66 and 62 area for the point of control. So the target to the downside will be this box right here. It'll be 65, 66 down to about 60, where the TPO point of control is. That's what's expected. Okay, so unless it does that, unless it gives up the range, Tuesday's range, then the idea is it's very likely to walk itself back towards the 4804.05. Remember the 0405 from a couple days ago? Remember that? 0405 and 1315. This is your price map right now. And then what's the number above here? Does anybody remember the next key figure above here? It's not the high. What's the next key figure above here? Anybody? I'm going to give you 7 seconds to answer. 7 seconds. In those 7 seconds, I'm going to remind you of today's webinar at live stream at 1 o'clock. Go to ct.pro/preparation. Anybody, what's up here on this price map? 23, good click, good guess, close, 20, nope, the excess, the beginning of excess at 25.50. We talked about this quite a bit the other day. Okay, and then we get 39.75. If we start to get into 25.50, if we start to push through 25.50, 39.75 is your friend. 39.75 becomes a pretty strong target. So before that, we have this 38.50, but if we start filling the excess, this high is vulnerable. And then the next number up on our price map is 48.50. So that's what we've got to the top side, to the upside. This is all just in here, meh, just noise, really. Break of 4800, look for 0405. That's this. Okay, 0405. Once that gets taken out, now you're in the 15, which was the 15.16 is where we stopped last time. We stopped right on the dot. So now we're in the 15, which is right here. This is our MC point of control. If 15 doesn't shut off the buyers, then 25.50 might. If the 25.50 doesn't shut off the buyers, then this becomes the key target. That's how the auction is expected to proceed. Okay, and then to the downside, we have it's all clear pretty much down into 72. Okay, and then 72 puts us right up against the settlement of yesterday, and if 72 doesn't hold, then we're looking at 66, and if 66 doesn't hold, then we're free and clear all the way down to basically 62, where the point of control is. And if that doesn't hold, the longs are in a lot of trouble, and we're likely to go and check out that 52 excess, the beginning of the excess, and if that gets taken out, then pretty quick ride into 47.20. So this is completely based on the structures in front of us. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So that's a pretty detailed analysis and plan for the ES. The NQ, this mad dog. The NQ has reversed the other way. The NQ has taken out that not only the prior high, so it ended the one-time framing down, but it took out, it tested. Hang on a minute. Yeah, this doesn't look right. Not sure what caused it to change here. So the NQ, flat, double top. This is your key target right here. 42, 43 is a weak high over a couple days. So it has taken out the prior high, which ends the one-time framing down, and then the overnight session took out the high before that. We need to see that in today's session. The big target for today for the NQ is 42.43, which is less than 50 points away, which is really attainable. Once that gets taken out, we're basically headed right back up to the top. The NQ was able to fire up its engines again and is running away. So we have these singles up here, pretty insignificant, and then that leaves us with 17,150 as the next key target. So not very far, right? 17,150 from 16,992 is a piece of cake. So just watch out for that 42-43 area. How do we respond? Do we respect it? And if we push through, look for that to be a base for the long into the single prints, and then back up to 17,150. If it's unable, it starts to roll down, then you're looking at Tuesday. Again, you're looking at Tuesday's low as the dividing line that puts us back into settlement. And the expectation is it's not going to breach that low, barring news. The expectation is this is very like we're in our next leg up in the NQ. Crude has rolled to March with an 8-cent discount. Crude is back and forth. Still not too much going on here. Crude has been in balance for quite some time, as I told you before. Here's crude. It's just stuck in this double distribution kind of environment. Yesterday it checked, it was below, came right through the fat part, went right to the low volume node. So this was basically yesterday's range. And then today it's likely to move from the low part all the way back up to 74. 74 becomes the next area where the interest starts to wane. So we have a pretty good open so far. The open has checked down, and has come out of range. Long only crude today on pullbacks, and that's all I have for that. Please don't forget, at 1 p.m. today, we're going to be talking about preparation. We'll look at what is the process to confidently come in, read the market without getting lost in the minutia, getting too myopic, getting too narrow in your focus, keeping the big picture in mind and just executing on the plan. That's what we'll be talking about today. You can find this event by going to go2ct.pro/preparation. Again, we'll start at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll catch you there today. Take care.